According to Google, Neverwinter Nights was the first graphical MMORPG and ran from 1991 to 1997 on AOL. I'm sure that in the 80s people played text-based games online. One I could find was Mud 1, which probably required more imagination than playing Atari games. Since then, many MMORPGs have come and gone, like Ragnarok Online, World of Warcraft, RuneScape, MapleStory, Priston Tale. I've played some of them back in the day, including Ragnarok, WoW, Mu Online, MapleStory, but there's one game that is still online to this day. A game that was a huge part of my childhood. One of the oldest MMORPGs still online with official servers. Tibia. Tibia was developed by 4 university students whose names I won't try to pronounce, but I'll display them on screen. They later formed the company Cipsoft, which is still responsible for Tibia today. The following is straight from Wikipedia. Tibia's development began in 1994 as a hobby project by German students, and there's their names, under the name Cip Productions. The first server went online in January 1997, and its growing popularity led to the creation of Cipsoft in June of 2001. The number of players online peaked at 64,000 on November 28, 2007, with Cipsoft reporting over 250,000 active players. According to a 2009 poll conducted by Cipsoft, players came from a wide range of countries, with the largest numbers from Brazil and Poland, which more or less made 50% of all player base. Other countries included Mexico, Sweden, the US, Netherlands, Spain, Chile, Canada, so on and so forth. And it's easy to see why a game like Tibia would become popular in countries like Brazil or Poland. In a time when owning a halfway decent PC was still hella expensive, Tibia wasn't very demanding on hardware. I can attest to that. My PC had an Athlon CPU with 1.1 GHz, 128 MB of RAM, and no dedicated graphics card. I had no graphics card. While the CPU was decent for the time, around 2003 when the PC was bought, not having a graphics card was awful. The onboard graphics built into the motherboards were just, they were there just to let you see what's happening on screen, nothing more. It couldn't handle games at all, which was painful to me. But Tibia wasn't a problem for my old computer. When all else failed, I knew I could still play Tibia. I couldn't even play RuneScape, and that game has the fame, of running on any computer, but I could play Tibia. And graphically, Tibia resembles the Ultima games, with its top-down perspective, where characters move square by square without even moving their legs. They didn't even animate the characters moving their legs until much later on. The pixel art still takes me back, and at least once a year, I'm tempted to sink a few hundred hours into the game. The first time I've ever played was at one of those internet cafes, or LAN houses as we call them here. They were actually called LAN houses, which is kind of fun to think about. I spent most of my weekends there, and you might think to yourself, why go to a place like that if you have a computer and internet at home? Well, because I had dial-up and they had broadband. Not only the internet was faster, but their computers were faster and better than mine. So I could also play CS 1.6, Mu Online, and other games. But even when I was there with a powerful machine at my fingertips, I would still play Tibia. Why? Because of its social element. In 2006, when I was about 8 or 9, I didn't know English and I barely knew any games besides what I played on my Mega Drive or PS1. But I went to a place full of nerds, and watching them playing Tibia together was something else. They weren't playing on the same machines, like sharing a keyboard. They weren't using 2 controllers attached to the same machine like me and my friends and a PS1. They were on separate computers, sometimes sometimes, really far apart, but they were planning monster hunts and strategizing together. I wanted to join in, but I couldn't figure out how since I was too young and the game wasn't in my native language. Well, people helped me understand how to create an account and I started playing. I think the concept of MMORPGs didn't fully click with me at first. A lot of the time you would be fighting monsters to gain experience and level up. Unlike other games where you progressed through stages, the gameplay in Tibia was continuous. I would see people coming and going, like other players coming and going around me, and sometimes they would kill a monster I was fighting and steal all the XP, which was infuriating, but that was still so magical being able to see real people playing the game. Back then you started on the island of Rookgard with no vocation, and your goal was to reach level 8 to access the main continent of Tibia, which had multiple cities and islands, and PvP was enabled there. I'm not kidding when I say it probably took me over a week to leave Rookgard. Not because it was difficult, but because, like a dumb child, I spent too much time killing rats in the sewer instead of seeking better monsters that gave me more XP. But that's in the past. But when I finally reached Carlin, I knew the game had only just begun. I had all my equipment from Rookgard, and I was eager to find stronger monsters and earn more gold to buy better gear. But just as I stepped out of the safe zone, ready for an adventure, I was killed. That's when Tibia's harsh reality hit me like a ton of bricks. The PvP was brutal, and people would kill you for anything, like they wanted your loot at any cost. I think it's better now. There are multiple ways to protect your loots. I think blessings, you have to go to certain NPCs and they give you blessings that protect your loot. But back in the day there was only one way, the Amulet of Loss, but no one who had just started playing could afford that. It was ridiculously expensive, not to mention how much experience you would lose upon death. To this day, Tibia remains one of the most unique MMORPGs I've ever played. You didn't level up just your character's level, but also stats like magic level, sword fighting, axe fighting, shooting, and so on and so forth. You would gain experience in these stats by actively using spells, wielding weapons, attacking monsters, or taking hits from monsters while using a shield. It was extremely time consuming to level these up. Forget about leveling up your character. Sometimes you had to spend hours with the weakest weapon surrounded by weak monsters just to gain a little bit of experience for stats like shooting or sword fighting. And all of that hard work could be wiped out by one unfortunate death. It was brutal. After leveling up, you could lose like 2 levels, your gold and all your gear. It really made you want to quit the game. I stopped playing so many times because I would get killed and lose all my progress. If you've played Tibia, you know how much dying was terrible. Sure, dying isn't fun in RuneScape or World of Warcraft, but Tibia punished you so harshly that you would often need to join a guild for protection. And yeah, Tibia had that kind of gang mentality. You needed stronger players to protect you. And even if you played on non-PvP servers, some players would still try to get you killed by luring powerful monsters towards you. It was brutal, and I loved it. It was beautiful. Honestly, there's so much history to this game that I could talk about it for hours upon hours. For instance, I could tell you about Lord Paulistinha, a Brazilian player who had the highest level in all of Tibia back in the day, before getting banned for sharing his account and botting. And that was also a big problem in Tibia back then. People cheated because leveling up or getting enough gold to buy equipment was so time consuming. The game was perfect for a kid like me who had nothing to worry about besides school. While Tibia is still free to play to this day, It's similar to RuneScape in that sense. Most of the content is reserved for players who purchase a subscription, and I never had premium accounts when I was a kid, which was frustrating when I saw friends leveling up faster and getting better equipment because they could access better areas that I couldn't. So I eventually I went back to the game. In like 2013, I went back to Tibia. I made all my childhood dreams come true. I managed to get my character to level 100, and level 100 in 2013 wasn't anything to write home about. It was just, it was basic, but I don't know. It was something I always wanted to do. I bought a premium account, and I just had the joy of playing the game, like actually understand what I was doing. Today, Tibia still has around 10,000 active players daily. Cipsoft continues to create more content, and South American servers have improved the experience for Brazilian players. The first Brazilian server actually was Tenebra, which was launched in 2004, but considering Brazil's internet infrastructure back then, you can imagine how bad the connection was. I died so many times because I would get disconnected, and Tibia didn't immediately log you off. Why? Because instant disconnections would have made it too easy to escape PKs or player killers. It was funny because sometimes people would log off to avoid death only to return and find someone waiting for them, ready to kill them and steal their stuff. Like, you would log off, and when you went back to the game, it would put you back exactly where you were. So sometimes people would just wait for you there. Man, those were crazy times. I have so many fond memories from those days. Memories I'll carry with me when I'm old and playing on my PS9 or something. Man, it was just a different time. Back in the day, you could say terrible, terrible things online. Imagine being me in 2006 playing this game with a bunch of 20-year-olds and the absurdities I would hear from these people.
Vem aqui que eu vou te provar por que eu aposentei. Vem aqui, bobão, que eu vou te mostrar. Então tá bom. Vem. Eu enfiava dedo no cu de bandido perigoso, eu vou perder pra bosta que nem você.
But that was the internet back then. Some people don't realize how different the internet is now from mid to late 2000s. These people were just, I don't know, they were just insane. I have so many stories surrounding like internet cafes and the game itself. Anyway, thank you for watching. It was a pleasure to me, like going down memory lane, talk about this game and remember these experiences I had as a child. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing, and I don't know, play Tibia if you like MMORPGs. It's still a pretty primitive game in a way. It looks really old. It doesn't have any sound effects. It doesn't have any music, but it's still fantastic. I love the game to this day. I don't play it anymore. I'm not gonna get sucked in, but you know what I'm saying? Anyway, thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing, and bye.